Imagine walking onto a car lot. On one side of the showroom, you have this legacy automaker secretly designing these gas-guzzling, battle-ready V12 engines, right? But then, publicly, they are promising this perfectly green, all-electric future.
Right, yeah, a total contradiction.
Exactly. And then, on the other side of that same lot, the dealership is tracking your face and your license plate with spy-level cameras just to prevent you from driving off in a vehicle you probably cannot afford anyway.
Which is just wild to think about.
It really is. So welcome to the double life of the modern auto industry. I am so thrilled you are joining us for this segment of Auto News Talk.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So we are exploring an industry suffering from a massive disconnect. I mean, automakers are sprinting headfirst toward this incredibly high-tech, artificial intelligence-driven future. But down on the ground, dealerships and everyday drivers like you are wrestling with some brutally expensive physical realities.
It is, honestly, a profound split personality. And what's fascinating here is the terrain we are walking through on this show. We are exploring a direct collision between software dreams and physical metal.
Yeah.
We are going to trace how this identity crisis starts at the very top, with automaker strategy, then how that trickles down into the way vehicles are actually bought and protected at the dealership level.
Right, the boots on the ground stuff.
Exactly. And ultimately, how it impacts who is legally allowed to fix your car. Because every piece of this puzzle fundamentally alters what it means to be a driver.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want to start at the top with the automakers themselves because, they are clearly trying to be two things at once.
Oh, completely.
They want to be viewed as these futuristic tech companies, right?
Right.
But they're also legacy metal benders. It reminds me of a traditional old-school steakhouse desperately trying to pivot to molecular gastronomy.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Like, they want that Michelin star, but they're quietly keeping a secret menu of steaks because, the steaks are what actually pay the rent.
Yeah, that is the perfect analogy for the corporate panic we are seeing, because an extensive industry analysis points out that automakers are managing a very distinct two-track reality.
Two-track.
Yeah, so they are investing heavily in electric vehicles and software, absolutely, but at the exact same time, they are keeping gasoline-powered and performance vehicles very much alive.
So the internal combustion engine is not going down without a fight, is it?
Not at all. The report details how brands like Cadillac, BMW, and Aston Martin are actively keeping combustion engines in development.
Wow.
Yeah, we are seeing things like the gas-fed Cadillac XT6 returning, and there's a gas-powered next-generation BMW M3 being spotted in testing.
Right, which is crazy because all you hear about is EV mandates.
Right. Meanwhile, the EV market itself is remarkably unsettled. Overall vehicle lineups are shrinking across the board. Like Volkswagen, for instance, might cut its global model lineup in half.
In half. That's massive.
It is. And the pricing strategies are completely chaotic. Audi is raising prices on upcoming models, while Hyundai is issuing large price cuts just to move inventory.
And the EV models themselves seem to exist in this bizarre limbo. The analysis noted that some models, like the Honda Prologue, are just dead after a short run.
Yeah,
While other highly anticipated electric models from Toyota are facing significant production delays. But out of everything in that breakdown, there was one memorable detail that I just cannot stop thinking about.
Oh, I think I know which one you mean.
Bentley. Bentley is planning to make its EV sound like a drum track, a literal drum track.
Yeah, it's so strange.
And at the same time, Aston Martin is designing a battle-ready V12 off-roader.
Yeah.
It is like Bentley is trying to artificially inject soul into a silent vehicle, while Aston Martin just doubles down on roaring, gas-powered aggression.
Well, it highlights the sheer panic of preserving brand identity in a transitional market, The implication here is that the industry is aggressively hedging its bets.
Because the EV hype was overblown.
Exactly. Consumer demand for pure EVs simply isn't matching the original hype generated by corporate boardrooms. So, automakers have to keep the traditional high-margin buyers happy while simultaneously attempting to satisfy strict emissions regulations.
But what this reporting doesn't answer is exactly when or if the industry will ever fully tip toward an all-electric future. It feels like they are indefinitely stuck in the middle.
They really are trapped. And, to see how extreme this pivot to tech can get, just look at the pioneer of EVs.
Tesla.
Right. An earnings preview analysis for Tesla highlights that even the company that mainstreamed the electric car is pivoting away from just selling cars.
Which is wild.
It is. They want the market to view them as an AI and robotics company, even in the face of a rebound in their actual vehicle deliveries.
Yeah, because the preview shows they saw a 25% jump in deliveries, reaching over 480,000 units. I mean, most legacy auto companies would do unimaginable things for those numbers.
Oh, they absolutely would. However, Tesla faces fierce competition, particularly from Chinese EV makers like BYD, who are just flooding the global market with lower-cost options.
Right, creating that downward pressure.
Exactly. So because of that, investors are incredibly worried about profit margins on the cars themselves. So Elon Musk is heavily emphasizing AI and autonomous driving. He's specifically leaning into the robotaxi and cybercab plans to keep the company's massive valuation aloft.
And it goes way beyond just self-driving cars, too. There is a standout detail from that earnings preview proving this point beautifully. Tesla is literally reworking older factory lines in Fremont, California to build a humanoid robot called Optimus.
Yeah.
I mean, they are tearing up car assembly infrastructure, the very thing that made them profitable, to build walking robots.
And the implication proves a hard truth about the modern market. Selling electric cars alone is just no longer enough to satisfy investors. The immense financial pressure is entirely on tech and software innovation now. If a company is just bending metal and installing battery packs, Wall Street is no longer impressed.
But what this earnings preview doesn't answer is whether Tesla's core auto business can maintain its dominance while waiting for these massive AI and robotics bets to pay off. You still have to sell the cars to fund the robot factory, right?
That is the big question.
Which brings up a massive point of friction. It feels so ironic. Automakers are tearing up assembly lines to build robots because bending metal doesn't impress Wall Street. But for the actual dealership selling that metal, the reality is painfully physical and, frankly, financially devastating.
Yes.
Because people walking onto the lot are not worried about humanoid robots. They're worried about $900 monthly car payments.
That is the exact disconnect we are talking about. Let's look at the financial plumbing of the dealership world for a second. Another deep dive into dealership operations reveals that supply shortage pricing has created a massive wave of negative equity. And this phenomenon is severely challenging the financing of new cars.
Yeah, I was looking at this negative equity data, and it is essentially a massive financial trap. I mean, think about the mechanics here.
It's brutal.
You go back to the period when vehicle inventory was practically non-existent. People were paying $5,000, sometimes $10,000 dealer markups just to get a basic commuter car because there was literally nothing on the lot.
Right.
And they financed that entire markup at high interest rates. Well, as the market normalizes, vehicle values plummet back to reality, but those buyers still owe that inflated loan balance.
Exactly.
So when they walk in to trade that car for one of these new high-tech vehicles, the math completely implodes.
They are completely underwater. I mean, they owe more on the loan than the vehicle is worth as a trade-in. And this affects mainstream vehicles, trucks like the Ford F-150 and Toyota Tundra, just as much as luxury models.
Nobody is safe from it.
No, and finance departments are absolutely scrambling. They are spending hours trying to find lenders willing to take on buyers who are already carrying that much bad debt.
The statistic from that report that made my jaw drop was that roughly 30% of trade-in buyers are underwater, and they're carrying an average monthly payment of $944.
It's unbelievable.
Almost $1,000 a month. For a standard trade-in, it is like trying to buy a house, but having to roll the mortgage of your old college dorm room into the new loan.
It is staggering, honestly. And the implication is severe for the automakers we were just talking about.
How so?
Well, all these high-tech, higher-priced vehicles they're building, they might just sit rotting on dealership lots if consumers are too buried in old debt to actually purchase them.
Right. And what this data doesn't answer is how long-term lender risk models will adjust to a market suddenly flooded with underwater loans. I mean, the banks have to reach a breaking point eventually.
They do.
But the dealership crisis is not just financial risk, it is physical risk.
Yeah.
You mentioned the sky-level cameras earlier, and it turns out dealerships are having to employ incredibly advanced surveillance technology just to protect their high-value inventory from complex fraud and theft.
Yeah.
Are we overcomplicating the simple act of buying a car? Between the massive loan payments and camera networks, it sounds more like Ocean's 11 than a trip to the local car lot.
It really is starting to look exactly like a casino floor. An industry breakdown focusing on digital retailing technology explains that dealerships are aggressively turning to license plate recognition, or LPR systems.
Okay, LPR.
Yeah, because they are facing this massive wave of forged paperwork, fraudulent test drives, and highly organized lot theft. Criminals are literally studying dealership procedures to find the exact weaknesses in customer verification.
Okay, wait. So we're not talking about someone hopping a chain link fence at midnight to hotwire a car?
Not at all.
We're talking about someone walking into the showroom with a meticulously faked credit profile, signing real paperwork, taking the keys, and driving off the lot. Legally on paper, but fraudulently.
Precisely. And traditional video surveillance is completely useless for that kind of crime. I mean, by the time a dealer realizes a car is missing, reviewing hours of CCTV footage is just a dead end.
All right, they're long gone.
So LPR systems replace that manual review by attaching searchable metadata to the footage. It captures timestamps, movement patterns, and utilizes criminal watch lists.
Wow.
So if a bad actor or even a stolen car coming back for service rolls onto the lot, the system instantly alerts staff. It operates as a combined security and finance tool.
The detail that blew my mind in that breakdown was about license plate cloning.
Oh, yes.
The LPR technology is so advanced that it can actually distinguish a cloned license plate from the real vehicle by tracking visual cosmetic marks and unique accessories.
It's so sci-fi.
It is. For example, it logs that the legitimate car had a specific scratch on the bumper, tinted windows, and a roof rack. So if a cloned car drives by and lacks that roof rack, the system flags the discrepancy immediately.
It is incredible technology, but the implication is undeniably dystopian. I mean, dealerships are essentially forced to become highly advanced tech surveillance hubs just to survive the modern retail environment. They are collecting massive amounts of metadata on every single person who drives onto their property.
And what this analysis doesn't answer is how dealerships will navigate the inevitable privacy concerns of storing all this customer metadata long term. I mean, you have to imagine regulators are going to start asking questions about where that data lives, who has access to it, and how secure those servers really are.
Absolutely. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, that data collection isn't just happening on the dealership lot, it is happening inside the cars themselves.
Right.
The vehicles sitting on these heavily surveilled lots are essentially driving computers, and that reality is sparking a massive war over who gets to fix them. Automakers aren't just selling cars anymore, they are selling locked software ecosystems.
This brings us to the right to repair fight, which is absolutely fascinating. A legislative breakdown of this battle highlights that a newly narrowed right to repair bill is advancing in Congress.
Right.
However, it specifically excludes access to telematics and wireless data. This heavily favors the automakers over your local independent repair shop.
We have to understand the mechanics of how a modern car breaks down to really get this. It is rarely a purely physical, mechanical failure anymore. Modern vehicles rely on proprietary software, remote diagnostics, and electronic calibration.
Right, it's all code.
Exactly. A previous industry agreement only covered access to the physical diagnostic ports, that little plug under your steering wheel.
Sure.
But vehicle architecture has evolved. Cars transmit data wirelessly back to the manufacturer now.
The telematics piece. I mean, it is like buying a high-end laptop, but the manufacturer welds the case shut and mandates that only their remote IT department can clear your browser history or replace the battery.
It's a great comparison.
The car is basically texting the manufacturer its health status, bypassing the physical plug entirely.
Exactly. And aftermarket and independent repair groups want an alternative piece of legislation, known as the Repair Act, to pass because it mandates open access to that wireless data.
Okay, so pushback from the little guy.
Yeah. But automakers push back hard, claiming that giving independent shops access to these wireless systems risks major cybersecurity breaches and exposes their intellectual property.
Okay, wait. I have to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Is it actually about cybersecurity, or is that just a convenient, scary-sounding excuse to monopolize a multi-billion-dollar repair industry?
Well,
Because if they lock out the independent mechanics, they force every driver back to the dealership service center, which is a massive profit engine.
that is the exact argument the independent shops make. Yet, the current narrowed bill, the one that excludes all that vital wireless data, passed a House committee by an overwhelming 48-1 margin.
Wow.
Getting 48 lawmakers to agree on anything is a memorable detail in itself, especially when critics are screaming that this bill completely ignores the reality of modern wireless vehicle data.
48-1 feels like the result of some incredibly heavy corporate lobbying, not just pure safety concerns.
The implication is profound for anyone who owns a car. If automakers control the wireless data, they completely control the repair market.
Yeah.
They can force you to always go back to the dealership for service, shutting out the independent mechanic down the street who simply isn't allowed to access the software needed to calibrate your brakes or reset a basic sensor.
It is a totally captive market.
Mm-hmm.
And what the legislative breakdown doesn't answer is the actual financial impact this will have on everyday consumers' repair bills moving forward.
Right.
Without competition from independent shops driving prices down, you have to assume dealership repair costs are going to skyrocket even further.
Absolutely. And when you step back and look at this entire landscape, from the automaker boardrooms to the dealership lots to the repair bays, the through lines are undeniable.
Yeah, let's tie this all together.
First, we are witnessing the absolute primacy of software and data over physical machinery. We see this heavily supported by the right to repair battle over telematics we just talked about.
And Tesla's massive corporate pivot toward artificial intelligence and robotics over traditional manufacturing.
Exactly. The metal is literally just the packaging for the software now. We also see the crushing burden of financial hangovers. I mean, the massive wave of negative equity trade-ins shows a consumer base trapped by past purchases.
Which directly connects to legacy automakers shrinking their lineups, right?
Yep.
They have to reassess just how much true financial demand is out there for these expensive to tech-heavy vehicles.
Spot on. And third, we're seeing the absolute necessity of high-tech defense everywhere. Dealerships are deploying LPR security tech to stop sophisticated fraud.
While automakers hide behind the shield of cybersecurity to fiercely guard lucrative repair data from local mechanics.
Yes, it creates some truly wild tensions in the industry. For one, you have legacy automakers fighting to maintain gas-guzzling, battle-ready V12 engines, while at the exact same moment, EV giants like Tesla are completely abandoning the traditional car narrative to build humanoid factory robots.
It's like they're operating in two entirely different centuries.
They really are. And then you have the massive paradox within the right to repair fight. Automakers argue that locking down vehicle data makes the car safer from hackers.
But in doing so, they create a scenario where that exact same safety measure might make it completely impossible for a local mechanic to fix your vehicle when it breaks down on the side of the road.
Exactly. Security becomes a literal barrier to ownership.
So what does this mean for the listener? I think the practical takeaway is this. If you are buying a vehicle, you are no longer just buying engine, a transmission, and four wheels. You are buying into a closed software ecosystem.
100%.
You need to look at the long-term data rights, who owns the information your car generates, and the financing terms just as closely as you look at the horsepower or the fuel economy. The software and the loan are the actual products you are tied to.
That is incredibly sobering, but true.
It leaves me with a final lingering question for you to mull over the next time you see one of these rolling computers on the highway. If vehicles are increasingly becoming autonomous robots wrapped in proprietary lockdown software, at what point do we stop calling them cars and start calling them licensed mobile hardware?
That's a great question.
Because it really feels like we are crossing that line. Pay close attention to the fine print on your next vehicle purchase. Ask yourself, are you actually buying the car, or are you just renting the software that makes it run? Thank you so much for tuning in to Auto News Talk. We'll catch you next time.